Good afternoon, IIeX. How are we? It's 5 o'clock. We're nearly there. We're nearly at the end of the day. Now, as we're here to talk to you about agile, adaptive customer intelligence using social media. And before we start, I wanted to apologize for the fact that I am wearing my trainers. And the reason I'm wearing my trainers is because I've hurt my right Achilles, tendon. I don't know if anyone's had that problem. But the good thing is I have to do these agility and flexibility exercises every day. And because it's 5 o'clock, agility is on the agenda, and I want to wake us all up. I want you to stand up, and we can maybe share one of these exercises. So if we all stand up, and I want you to try and copy me. So we just want to have your shoulder width apart, put your legs shoulder width apart, your back straight, your head straight looking out, hands in front of you. And you're going to copy me. We're going to go down into a squat position. Keep those heels on the ground, okay? So ready? Down, 2, 3, 4, as low as we can go, and up. 2, 3, 4. I can see the strain on some of those faces. And again. Down, 2, 3, 4. Up, 2, 3. That was very good, guys. Very good. Well done. That is where our physical agility ends. We're obviously here to talk to you about agility in terms of customer intelligence using social media. And Jess is going to kick things off.
So, hi everybody. I'm Jess Owens, social media researcher at Face, and an avid social media user myself. And my starting point for talking about Agile Research is not what we're doing in the research industry, but it's what our clients are already out there doing in their social media campaigns. So Agile Marketing as a concept really kicked off into public prominence last year with Oreo's response to the Super Bowl 2013. Lights went black in the stadium. Within minutes, Oreo had a tweet making a joke about that, which went viral. More recently, we see the tube strikes in London, I think last week. Adidas immediately create content, create a hashtag, create a mini campaign around that in hours or days. Really rapid response. Another example from Paddy Power, who are a British gambling company. Now, last year in the UK, we had a food contamination scandal called the horse meat crisis. And Paddy Power's response was to demonstrate their trademark humour and to go and get horse meat burger vans out, travelling the company, showing their irreverence. But it's also rapid response and agile marketing taking place actually physically and present in the real world, not just in digital. So this is the question for research. We are an industry that loves to do things rigorously and robustly and take time and measure our findings and triangulate them. But this is happening so fast. How can research keep up? We're going to talk about agility, and the definition of this isn't just thinking and understanding quickly. That's the first challenge for research. But it's also actually about being able to move quickly and easily. It's about bringing research into our clients' decision-making. Decisions happen quickly in companies. People realize there's a problem, they need to act to fix it that day, that week. And often research doesn't even get in the door of being involved in those decisions because the lead times are just too long. But there's some really interesting stuff going on in processes for how people work, coming out of software development. And there's a movement called Agile Development. And I want to think about how some of those principles can be taken forward into Agile market research. So there's a manifesto for Agile Development. And it's got it's a little bit long, but the key 3 principles to really take from it. So it's about a better way of developing software. Is Agile a better way of delivering research? Working outputs over documentation and detail. It's about taking people over processes. And it's about responding to change over following a plan. It's an iterative model and it's a feedback loop. And that's something that research doesn't necessarily keep delivering. So how can research keep up? Well, social media offers a way to do this faster and more agilely than really any other method. So I mentioned this horse meat food contamination crisis. Well, let's tell you a story about what we can do with social media research there. It was one evening, I think on the 15th of January last year, and about 9 or 10 p.m, I was on Twitter, talking to my friends, reading news, messing around really. And I noticed my client's name trending on Twitter, and I think, hang on a minute. I know what campaigns they're running. They're not running a big campaign. Why are they trending on Twitter? Oh shit. So I click on the hashtag, I go and see there is a massive food contamination crisis. But I can do something about it. It's 10 o'clock at night. I can go to my social media research platform. We use ours internally, Pulsar, one that we've developed at Face, but you could do this with other proprietary platforms on the market as well. I can go and set up a search to capture everything people are saying about the brand, everything people are saying about the issue, and how these two things are intersecting. And within 2 hours of that crisis having first been published, first news article went into the Telegraph, 21:44, quarter to 10 in the evening. And I sent an email at 20 to midnight saying, these are the key stats, this is what's going on, this is the situation as we're seeing it. And the key insight, social media is reacting differently. It's not doing what you expect. Are people disgusted at the fact that there's horse meat in their burgers? Well, ish. But mostly they think it's hilarious and they're making horse puns. And we could get that from social data in hours, and we could get that information to our clients overnight. And so for the 8 a.m. board bulletin, they already knew what was happening in that kind of situation. So that, we hope, is Agile. Now, there's already buzz about Agile qual research. I'm not going to claim to have invented the wheel here. And the credit here, Matt Water at Gut Check It, working with Procter & Gamble, has written some great stuff about how they've worked on this. The shape of the model is the thing to pay attention here. A move from a very linear assembly line process of each stage being specced out in detail and run through to a much more iterative process of feedback loops. Do something, see how it works. Do something next, see how it works. And much smaller projects feeding around much faster. So it means that each stage of the project is feeding on the best available knowledge. Now, so what does social media research add so that Agile Qual can't? It's a matter of timelines. And the online community approach described in that Procter & Gamble piece had a turnaround time of about 5 days. Despite working flat out and with online communities and online recruitment, you've still got to write topic guides, you've still got to recruit people, do the community, do the analysis. Social media research really can speed that up to a matter of hours for key insights because you've already got the data in place. This is through things such as brand trackers. You're already tracking that brand. You've already got a massive data set of thousands or tens of thousands of mentions per day on everything that's being said about that brand. So when you need to start to get an insight, you're able to go and just start doing the thinking immediately. The data collection has already happened for you. There's another value, though, to social media research, is that you're not just looking at the consumer in isolation. You're able to do this really powerful triangulation of the consumer in the wider digital media ecosystem. So firstly, you can look at what they're saying in response to your brand, to your news crisis. You can understand the consumer point of view, the customer language. But secondly, you can look at how they're reacting to news media. So what's being put out in the BBC, the Guardian, the Telegraph, in TV coverage, in radio. And you can see which messages are being shared by people and being amplified. You can track the links people are sharing on Twitter, for example. And from this, you can see which news stories are having the biggest impact on consumers and what that means then for your PR and communications strategy. But there's a third thing you can get from social that you can't get from other sorts of research. And that's the ability to also triangulate the consumer point of view against the messages you're putting out in social. You can measure the reaction to your messages, which ones are sinking home, getting retweets, getting a positive response, which ones are not. You've got a built-in feedback loop. Every retweet, every reply, as soon as it comes in, it's picked up by your social media platform. And so you're able to adjust your strategy minute by minute as people are responding. So it's not just about agile research and insight, but being able to communicate with that same process of feedback. So another story about what you can do if you've got social media listening plugged in when you're having a crisis. And this is a bit of an oldie, it's from 2012, but it's just such a fantastic example of how social media listening empowers brands to really live up to their values and take a bold approach when there's a crisis. So this is with Telefonica, or O2 in the UK. And on the 12th of July 2012, they had a massive nationwide network outage, millions of phones affected. And of course, as soon as people, well, they weren't tweeting their complaints from their phones, but as soon as they got to laptops, they were complaining, they were moaning on social media. And so really, as soon as the outage started to spread across the country, so did the volumes of social media discussions start to rise. But O2 worked very, very closely with us at Face, And not only do we know their brand very well, but they know our research tools and platform, and they can use them themselves. So they were listening to their customers all the way through this crisis. We were providing them with bulletins every hour, responses to questions in minutes, and really keeping them very much in touch with the customer tone of voice. They were also, of course, measuring what happened to their response. And because they knew what was going on, they felt confident enough to say, we will be funny about this. We will not respond to everybody in the same way. We won't just put out a formulaic message to every single person, because that's boring. We can actually use this opportunity to make our customers feel valued by communicating with them personally, and to communicate some of our brand values. And the whole thing turned around, such as by 3 o'clock the next day, we were getting that kind of day 2 press coverage on how well O2 had handled that crisis, what a pioneering version of social media communication this was. And ultimately, they won a couple of PR awards for being able to be so bold. But you can only be bold if you know it's going to land okay, and that's where social comes in. So here's an example of something else. I mentioned just now day 2 stories. And in sort of journalistic terms, you have a crisis, so you have a big news event go down, and the first day's coverage is all about what is going on. The day 2 story is what the longer form piece for the next day. What did that all mean? Why does it matter? And with social media research, we're able to use it not just for customer intelligence, but actually to go and feed back into this process of brand communications. So here's an example we did for Twitter on the Alex Ferguson retirement story. Using social media data coming in real time, we're able to visualize in real time, produce a polished visualization very quickly, and then Twitter were able to feed that out the next day and create their own press and PR around this idea that Twitter is essential to how news stories spread. Twitter is where people share their short thoughts and feelings, and understanding Twitter can really help you get a sense of the pulse of the nation. So it's a way for them to create buzz around what they do and get themselves into the news story. So a kind of a summary of the process, the idea of real time for action and reaction, day 2 stories for what it all means, and then yes, sometimes Agile Research, you do need a little time to do the deep thinking and the analysis, and in a couple of weeks, you're able to make those kind of strategic conclusions, do the deeper forms of network analysis that can enable you to say, here's what we do next time. That's Agile Research, but I also want to talk very briefly about adaptive research. What does this mean? It's about research that can evolve. Sometimes, the research buying cycle, you buy year-long contracts, 2-year contracts, but our clients' needs change during that time. It can be from moment to moment, a crisis arises, or brand positioning changes, or new media forms come through. And if you're running something like a tracker survey, the need for longitudinal comparability means you're asking the same questions all the time. Now, social media data offers a chance to be really adaptive within the context of these longer running relationships. Why? It's because your data set is always on. It's always picking up content 24 hours a day. It's picking up every single mention of your brand, no exceptions. It's spontaneous and unprompted data. Perhaps that's the most important point. So you're able to ask it questions you didn't know you needed to ask. You can see emergent topics arising through keywords, through semantic analysis, or an issue develops within the company. And you can ask it that question by typing into your search filter, what are people thinking about this new product's pricing, or the logo, or the change of marketing director? What is this particular demographic saying? And you can ask it questions that you didn't intend to ask in the first place. So that your data set is able to adapt with you to keep meeting research needs. And we also want to empower our clients as super users. How do you do this? It's about making the client the researcher themselves. And in our partnership with companies such as O2, as we've worked with them longer and longer, they take on more of the research and reporting. How can they do this? It's about structured data and a really well-designed technology that means we're not just giving them a raw string of tweets, loads and loads of text, and no context, no sense, no structure. But with a well-structured research platform, you do a lot of the initial sense-making is built into the technology, allowing the client or the researcher to come in and find those insights very quickly, very adaptively, and in an agile way. So, take it away, Andrew.
So agile and adaptive research is not just about brilliant researchers. It's not just about coming up with those fantastic research frameworks. It is also about technology. And at FACE, we are passionate about research, but we're also passionate about tech. We combine those two things in equal measure. And that means that with the proprietary platform that we've developed, Pulsar, which, by the way, is open now to all of you to use, all the research in this room, you can now use this platform. We've opened it up to everyone. We approach the technology through a research and planning lens. So and I suppose what that meant from our point of view was that we didn't look at social data as purely a quantitative data set. We look at it as a qualitative data set on a quantitative scale. And that means that from a technology point of view, we've built in the data science that we've built into the tech is done looking through that qualitative research and planning lens. And I think that's really, really important. For these 5 reasons, these are 5 very big differentiators in terms of, from a tech point of view, that we're able to do. The first is around visibility versus volume. Now, a lot of platforms on the market, they're obsessed by volumetrics, and we focus as much attention on what we call visibility. So we give every piece of content a visibility score from 0 to 1,000 so that we can help weight the potential impact that piece of content is going to have in the social web. I think that's a very important difference. When we talk about real time, we are not talking about bringing back beautiful visualizations of your data in 24 hours. We're talking about doing that between 30 and 90 seconds. When we talk about context versus content, and I think this is big, I think context is king, not content. This is where I think things are moving. It's not about the content that you see in a tweet and those 140 characters, it's about the context. All the metadata that sits around those 140 characters is really important. And then last 2 points, audience and content searches, we're able to mine social data not just by keywords, but by audience. So that is about bringing back all the conversations that a particular person or audience is having with their friends and their friends' friends, irrespective of whether they mention the brand, your brand or your service. And then tracking by content is through through URLs. So any piece of content that has a URL, whether that's a campaign, a video, a PR, press release, we can then track and see how that diffuses through the social web. And then finally, just to finish off, we are now talking about social data intelligence. We've seen things move from social media monitoring to now social media insight. And I think the next stage is all around social data intelligence, where we have the adaptability, the agility to bring in client third-party data and combine that with social data in real time. And I think technology's got an important part to play in making that happen. Thanks very much.